Well, I'd like to welcome everyone. I'm excited, thrilled to be here tonight for our first in the 2022 season Honors Live Learning events. And we have a whole bunch of wonderful ones lined up already for the next few months. So I hope that this won't be the first time you come join us, but I'm delighted to see so many, I want to say faces, but actually mostly so large a number next to the participants icon, if I can be completely accurate. That's one of those dehumanizing aspects of the game. But anyway, I'm thrilled to see you all here. And I'm excited tonight because I am joined by Marc Hnytka, who is, actually works pretty well in the video here that he is my right hand man. I guess right hand person is more accurate, but more correct verbiage. But he really, he's done so much to spearhead honors here at UAGC. And I'm thrilled that he almost last minute bravely and kindly volunteered to lead off our season. He's just a remarkable enthusiast of environmental sciences and technology, innovative technologies for the environment, and also just innovative technologies for transforming education in our world. And that is what brings him to join us tonight to speak on virtual and augmented reality. And Marc, just take it away. And thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you so much for that great introduction, Clifford. I really appreciate it. And I will say I am not by any means an expert. I would say I'm an amateur enthusiast with maybe, I guess, about a year of practical experience under my belt. And Clifford and I are actually both part of a faculty team that is looking into the educational applications of virtual reality, specifically at UAGC. And we intend to write a paper and also present at some conferences on that, because there is a lot of work that's already been done, but it is still relatively in its early time. And that's mainly because up until relatively recently, the technology itself was rather expensive. But I have one of these, and Clifford does as well, and all of the faculty that are working with us. And this isn't sponsored by, this is a formerly Oculus, now Meta, associated with Facebook, Quest 2. And this headset and the associated 2 controllers is only $300 for the entry-level model. And it's a standalone unit. It can run many applications on its own. And it's by far the least expensive for this level of functionality. And I think that we've discussed that Facebook / Meta is probably selling them either at cost or maybe even losing on it, because they're hoping to regain that in sales of applications, games, and programs. So I've had this. I bought it before I even got signed on with the research, and I've been using it for about a year on and off, exploring. Mostly what's out there right now are games, although there are a lot of other applications being developed for organizations, for training purposes, and we're going to go into that a little bit today. But to start, I have a video that is a short overview, because I don't know. Actually, I would be curious if you want to maybe use the thumbs up reaction. If you actually use the thumbs up reaction, if you know a little bit about augmented reality and virtual reality, and use the heart react if you actually own or have used a headset before. That will help me know a little bit more about what level we're at. But I'm going to start sharing my screen. Let's see, share sound, share screen. You're probably going to see all kinds of things. We're going to go to the presentation though first. Oops. All right, so yes, this is the March 16th UAGC Honors Live Learning, Educational and Professional Applications of Augmented Reality and Virtual Reality. And this is just a little overview. I hope we're going to get through all of it, but basically after each little video clip or segment, I'm going to open it up for discussion. If you have thoughts, if you want to share in the chat, or if you want to unmute and share your thoughts. So the first is going to be this overview of virtual reality and augmented reality. And this is Creative Commons video from ID Tech EX, a brief introduction to AR and VR. And boy, it is. There we go. Can everybody see that all right? And let me know if the sound is coming
Welcome
through as
to
well.
this brief introduction to augmented and virtual reality markets. In the last 20 years, virtual and augmented reality products have come a long way. From the late 90s to early 2000s with devices which showed a simple screen in front of the user's eyes, to the release of Google Glass in 2013. Then later in the decade, we had the release of a number of pivotal products, such as the Oculus Rift and the first HoloLens in 2016. And then most recently last year, we had the release of the first truly standalone virtual reality product, the Oculus Quest. This is a plot of the annual revenue of the overall augmented and virtual reality market. And initially, from about 2014 to 2016, we had early sales in all sectors. Then later on, we had further growth, and this stagnated in 2018 as no new models were released at the time. And this has continued to grow in 2019 and 2020. However, augmented reality is slightly less prevalent than virtual reality because at the time it was selling to markets with smaller volumes, for example, enterprise. In 2019 to 2020, we were expecting new content leading to new hardware and further continuing this growth. Over the next decade, we predict this growth to continue to a maximum of over 30 billion by 2030. Typically, products fall into one of three groups: virtual reality, mixed reality, or augmented reality. Purposes of clarity, these will be grouped into two groups: virtual reality and augmented and mixed reality, where virtual reality products are those which are closed off from the real world, and augmented and mixed reality products are open to the real world. Within these two groups, we have a variety of types. We have PC products, standalone products, and smartphone products. So within virtual reality, a PC product is a product which is connected via HDMI cable to a computer. A standalone product is one that doesn't require that computer to run. One good example of this is the Oculus Quest, released in 2019, and a smartphone device is one that uses a smartphone display screen as the display for the virtual reality experience. In augmented and mixed reality, we typically have fewer PC connected products and more standalone products, such as the Magic Leap. In the smartphone era, these typically are applications such as the IKEA app, which allows users to virtually visualize products within their own home.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there for now because that was I think the really important portion of that presentation. So I want to open it up now. If you want to just type in the chat or unmute and talk about, I'd be curious what your experiences are, or if you have encountered any of these products, and whether that's in in your personal life, in a professional setting. I actually hadn't known, because we just got an IKEA, I think, in the last 5 years in Columbus, and I haven't been there yet, but I intend to go. And I didn't know that they have basically an augmented reality app for basically placing their products in your home virtually using your phone. Your phone camera will capture the space, and then the app will insert the item, so you can see how it would look in your space. And I think that that's something that we're going to see a lot more of, because that can be run on a smartphone. But yeah, does anybody want to share? Does anybody know of where they're employed, if your employer uses virtual reality or augmented reality for any training purposes? Stephanie's recently heard about augmented reality, virtual reality, learned to create a 360 video using Adobe Captivate. Yep, that's really cool. And that is something else that is maybe within the reach of more people because of they can be done on a smartphone basis. You can do.
In fact, if I can interject here,
Sure.
I was just at a conference called Digital Living and Meaningful Living and Learning in a Digital World. It was in Savannah. And there was a group of faculty there from Florida Atlantic University down in Florida who are using this really cool, and I know this looks low tech after what Marc has shown you, this really cool card. This is from a company called iamcardboard.com, but it's basically just a cardboard box. It looks a little bit like a Viewmaster viewer. Those of you that are really old like me maybe remember those, because you can put your head up to this like this. But what's really cool about it is that this flap comes down. There's a flap here that closes with Velcro, and you can take your cell phone and slip it into that place. So then you're actually looking into the video of your cell phone, and you can use a 360 video and get something that's very close to VR. It's a 360 video experience where you can turn your head and actually see like different parts of a laboratory space and watch a lab being done literally right in front of your eyes with this kind of setup. So what's really cool about this, it certainly isn't anywhere near as exciting as the things Marc's sharing with us tonight, but it's an example of efforts to try to scale to something that's economically viable right now for students. So this might not be that far away. Maybe the headset, the expensive headset and the true VR might still be a few years away from online world, but something like this is already within reach.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Clifford. So yeah, it sounds like it looks like Edwin has an Oculus. Do you have the Quest 1? Do you have the Rift or the Quest 2? The Quest 2, which just came out, which, like I said, I think is one of the least expensive options as far as a standalone, fully functional. And this headset you can also use a cable or Wi-Fi. There's a cable, so I can actually plug it into my desktop computer as well and run applications that might be because since this is such a small unit, it basically has the power of a smartphone. So it can only run, it can run full 3D world applications, but the graphics are at what was maybe cutting edge for PC graphics maybe 5 to 10 years ago. So if I run something from my computer and I can either do it wirelessly or through a cable to the headset, I can run something that has very close to modern, very close to photorealistic graphics, and it can then be sent to the headset. And I will say that because I had heard about VR and then I heard about this product that was coming out, and I just kind of on a whim, I was like, that sounds really interesting. And I got it. And when I first used it, if you have not experienced virtual reality, and there are places now, I think actually in my local area, there is a place where you can go and basically rent, and they have a big open space that you can play games with your friends, and you rent the headsets and then you play different, games. I think there's one that is like a Star Wars themed. And that's actually mixed reality. It not only uses the virtual reality headset, but in the space itself, there are physical objects that represent things that are then visualized in the game. And there's like a scene where there's lava and they have like heat lamps that create like a heat effect as if it was coming off of the lava. I should have gotten that, but that was definitely not Creative Commons. But I'll share the link if I can find that before the end of the presentation. I think, oh wait, yeah, theme parks have those. Yeah, Edwin. I think Disney, like in California and probably also Florida, I think they have like outside of the parks itself, like in the area that you can get into. Is it like Disney Springs or something? Anyway, I think they have one of these types of virtual reality, basically experiences that you can do. So anyway, I will go to the next video. Share screen. So this next video, and it's really interesting. It's from, this is a Tech Ohio channel story from 2019. And this is an application for the medical field where surgeons are able to visualize actually what is under.
MediView is using a very innovative platform with augmented reality to provide a solution to surgeons for the ablation of cancerous tumors. So if you picture what a surgeon has to go through to perform a procedure, imagine that you have a grape and you have to put a needle in the center of that grape. Only that grape is inside a cantaloupe and you have no ability to view that. So what the MediView technology does is give the surgeon X-ray vision to see inside that area they need to get to so they can hit the center of the tumor using less radiation, hopefully faster, and improve patient outcomes. Cancer was an area that was of high patient demand. The procedures were long, the outcomes were not great, and there was a vast need for an improvement in the visualization of the site that they're a percutaneous intervention. So as a platform technology, we can move into pediatric deformity correction, neurosurgery, orthopedics, possibly cardiac applications. I mean, as a platform, we can go anywhere the market takes us. I've worked my entire career in medical device, and this is the first position I've had that I feel like my career can have real dignity. So even though we play a very small part in the overall treatment of the patient, getting this technology to the bedside can change patient outcomes, and there's dignity in that as a startup.
So what did everybody think about that? I will say the amount of time that they actually showed the technology, it looks like the surgeon is wearing basically something that has that they can see through, kind of almost like a semi-transparent lens. And even though we can't see it, I would assume that this is projecting an overlay of the image that is showing basically the MRI or the X-ray of the patient in that specific area. And then I think there was a little visualization, but I thought this was a really great story, which is why I shared it. But I wish there was more kind of explanation of like what the technology actually looks like. Oh yeah, this was showing
into pediatric deformity.
Boy, it's really hard to navigate with this. Sorry, yeah, there. So that's showing kind of like what the surgeon would see when they have that. They can see the patient, they can see through the lens, but the lens is the device is projecting onto the lens this virtual image showing the internal organs or tissue that the surgeon is working on. So yeah, I would be curious what people think about that, or what other types of applications you could see, maybe in where you're working currently, or what your major or your profession that you're hoping to get into, like what kinds of applications you think this could be helpful for. And feel free to unmute and talk too if you want. And come on camera if you want.
I can share. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
And I'll come on camera too. I don't mind.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I put in the chat that I can relate to that on a personal level. As a cancer survivor, I think the accuracy of the treatments when they go in to do radiation, they target specifically that area. And I think we've come so far in terms of the technology to get to that specific spot instead of just throwing a bunch of radiation into a patient's body, hoping it gets to the right place. So I think it's really neat. And I love the analogy they used, putting a needle inside a grape inside of a cantaloupe, and that tool basically gives them X-ray vision. I thought that was a really neat analogy to use.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Stephanie. And yeah, it's really hopeful, when we see these new technologies being developed that will hopefully, lead to more positive health outcomes. So thank you for sharing. Edwin said, most exciting career in the world, accounting. Don't see this being of any use. That I will try to think of an application case. Actually, one thing that could, and I didn't find any specific examples, but when you have this VR headset on, you can actually have a computer screen or information or data displayed inside the display, and you can look around and have basically a much larger field where you can be observing things than a computer, unless you have a very large monitor or multiple monitors. You can essentially replicate that with the headset. And you can either use the controllers to manipulate things, or some applications actually see and sense your hands and create virtual hands. So Minority Report it's actually very similar. I can't remember. I think in there the computers are projected. I don't remember if they have to wear glasses. They might wear like very thin, just normal looking glasses that can do everything there. But I could definitely see that application for things where you're managing a lot of data or looking for patterns or things like that. There might be ways that you can more quickly view and process and recognize patterns in data and even manipulate data in a virtual way. I don't think the tools are there quite yet, at least not that I've seen, but I could see that going in that direction of it being a faster way to manipulate and view and understand data. So in that way, it could be useful for accounting. Julia, my major is journalism and mass communication, so meeting in VR could be really helpful for interviews. And that's one of the things that Clifford and I and the faculty team that are doing this, we've done virtual meetings so far, just in like a meeting room, and you can actually see people and you can interact with them. The audio is directional, so like if you're facing this way and somebody's talking over here, you hear it come from this side, and if somebody's talking over here, you hear, and you can move around, and you can actually go to a whiteboard and you can use the controller. You like flip the controller upside down and you can actually draw on the whiteboard, but it's like you're just drawing in air. But when you're in the thing, you can see the board and you can see like what you're drawing. And the controllers, they have what's called haptic feedback. So they have little motors that can create vibrations. So like when you're drawing, you can actually it feels like you're drawing on something. It's really quite interesting. But I want to move on. Healthcare field. Nadira said work in the healthcare field, work in the OR, use robotic techniques. Yep, that's true. There's a big correlation or kind of interplay between robotics and VR, and surgeons potentially being able to use VR and remote controls to be able to do surgeries at a distance using a robot that is very precise, actually doing the surgery, but the surgeon is controlling it using a mix of virtual reality and remote control. Nicole works in the landscaping industry, help with visualization and propose landscape enhancements. Yeah, that would be, and I think that would be really cool, because the company, you could have the sets and you could just bring them out so the customer could use it, and it could be in their yard and they could actually see, basically a virtual layout that looks photorealistic, and they could look around, see their yard, and see, what you're proposing to do. So that's really cool. Counselor and therapist visits via VR, medical, agriculture, public safety, sports, entertainment. Awesome. PlayStation has the best haptic feedback thus far. I haven't had a chance to check out the PlayStation VR, and I know they have haptic feedback through their controller as well. And PlayStation I think they're releasing their like next generation VR set sometime like this year, I believe. Well, I realize we're already almost halfway through the time. I did want to, let's see, that we just saw the medical application. This one is actually very interesting. I don't know if we have any active or retired military, but this is relatively recent from 2019 Navy application using, actually this is augmented reality for training purposes. And this is also Creative Commons. So I'm going to share my screen. Oops. It's a lot of sharing and unsharing of the screen. All right, here is the US. Yes, and in partnership with this company. And this can be used by police as well, or I've seen applications that require
It
firefighters.
you look at the training systems throughout the Navy, we're still using a lot of legacy, traditional training methodologies. We have limited time to get sailors the training that they need, and augmented and virtual reality technologies and some of the emerging peripheral devices and capabilities that come along with those are going to allow for training scenarios that we've never been able to train to before.
This augmented reality virtual training environment that they're providing to us, this capability, we can immerse into our existing curriculum, and what it does is allows us to be very reconfigurable at a moment's notice. Basically, we can go in and we can change the scenarios, we can change the threat that they pose.
So I think that's really where this technology and this capability moves things a step ahead, because the ability for us to quickly sort of create a scenario, modify the different agents that are in there, change their behavioral outcomes to trigger different events during the scenario based on what the trainers are observing, really creates this dynamic training experience.
I would say it's going to bring a lot of value to our training, because you can immediately redo a scenario, putting people into them, getting sailors to run through those scenarios and rebuilding them and everything that you needed to do to conduct training.
ONR Tech Solutions has been a really great opportunity for myself and my team at Dahlgren. I'm used to going through more traditional sort of funding sources, but ONR Tech Solutions has definitely felt like a very unique experience.
Well, I was a little skeptical at first. You know, I'm a live fire, hands-on person, but doing this job, I've seen a lot more technology really being advanced over the last couple of years. I put the equipment on yesterday, and just being immersed in the environment, you really get pulled in pretty quickly, and really thinking that you're within the virtual environment or the augmented environment.
Going into or being outside of the room before you enter the room, so it's almost going from a different world from the outside, and then you step into the room where you guys set up the AR and you can see everything. So you can kind of put yourself in a whole nother world once you step into the room, so it's pretty neat. And you actually get to move around and scan around and see people as you scan, so it's pretty cool. And if you ask them task directions, say, hey, get on the ground or something like that, they actually do respond and they will get down, which is pretty awesome.
It's been a great opportunity working for the Office of Naval Research to support the Center for Security Forces in developing this new training solution. It's also given us a tremendous opportunity to partner with industry like Magic Leap Horizons, with our DoD collaborators, with the Dismounted Soldier Training Group, and also to invest in and help grow small businesses like Hnytka.
And I think if we continue to submit our ideas and ONR can continue to kind of build off them and improve, I think it'll be good for our sailors and our securities.
So yeah, that's and this is a really, I would say, a pretty advanced, although this video is over 2 years old now, but this is pretty advanced. And I would say, though, because that stuff all looks like it's relatively purpose built for this type of application. So I would imagine that each of those systems, the headset, the backpack, was probably providing the power and the processing and networking for the headset, because those headsets were relatively lightweight and small. So the backpack that they were wearing was providing probably a lot of the processing power. And then the weapons themselves, I actually didn't realize. So the headset and that whole system was designed by Magic Leap, which is a company that was mentioned in the very first video as one of the companies that's out there doing these types of technologies. And then the guns were Haptech, I believe, which is another company. And so haptics is just physical sensations that are increasing the amount of experience or feedback or immersion that you're experiencing in VR. So these, and I'm gonna stop sharing again. These controllers and like if you've ever used like a modern video game like PlayStation or Xbox controller, they just have little motors in them that create vibrations of different frequencies and types, and that can provide some level of like if you pick something up, you like feel it a little bit, like there's a little bit of a sensation, or if you hit something or if something bumps into you, you can like feel that through the controller. But in that case, the simulated rifles that they were using probably had mechanisms inside of them that provided the feeling of recoil, like the the gun being fired. And that company makes other products, which I think we will look into here in one of the next videos. But yeah, at any time, if you want to share your thoughts as we're looking through this in the text, or if you want to unmute. Did you have something, Linda?
Yeah, I was actually thinking of some other applications for the virtual reality, such as obviously police training comes to mind. That's a lot. I'm here in Seattle, and so that's defund the police is out there, and they're talking about how are they trained. So this provides another way for them to understand how to de-escalate situations. Then I also thought about firefighters. So here, assess the building you're going into, and if you make this choice, you get this reaction. If you make that choice, you get that reaction. How do you make sure you know where your teammates are, et cetera? And I just thought about anything where you have a cause and effect. So you can go into a scenario, and if you make one choice, you can easily say this is what's going to happen if you make a second choice. So it kind of gives you almost an unlimited amount of causes and effects that you could use. I also thought about crisis management. So for example, we have like an earthquake, stop, drop, and roll, and you've got all these different people. And so I don't imagine everyone running around in headsets jumping under the desks, but you could still have some way of saying, if you did this, here's the reaction. If you did that, and you can even do it for climate change. If we don't do something with the rainforest, this is how it's going to eventually end up. So I mean, there's a lot of different applications that we could help people visualize and understand what are the consequences of our choices.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all those ideas, Linda. I agree. And one of the later videos that I have has actually a firefighter application, and it shows, and it's very interesting, like what they're hoping to do with it. But it's basically, and I won't get into too much detail, but they're using it both for training purposes and then actually also in field implementation to track the firefighters while they're in an active situation, monitor it, and then if they have their visors, and you can project information on there, especially in a fire situation where there's smoke or it's dangerous, you might be able to project the structure of the building or where to go or directions real time in the firefighter's helmet. And that would be somewhat of or even create like if they different technologies or ways of visualizing things that could be projected in a way that's more clear and easy to understand using an augmented reality system. So Edwin said Simulation Town is better because of the unpredictability, unless DoD is going to pump money into AI that constantly learns how to act like a hostile. So I'm assuming that Simulation Town is somewhat of a training live type situation. I know there are different, obviously there's like live fire training, which is using actual ammunition, which you wouldn't be using against other people. You might use it against targets in a simulated situation. Then there's also there's a company that makes something called Simunitions, which essentially work in a modified firearm, but they shoot a paint marker type of round. But otherwise, like I think the pistol and rifle can both operate very similar in terms of how the real one works, but you can actually use that against other people with certain amounts of protective equipment, because it's like a hard-hitting paintball round kind of. Yeah. Okay. Edwin did say we use simulation rounds, so it hurts. Never go out alone in a hostile situation. In order for this to be used, you have to be mixed with VR and real world. Training for ranges that go up to 700 yards, no interruption with an enemy, just you and a paper target. Yeah, those are all great points, Edwin. And I think maybe the idea of this would be not to replace, but to supplement, because you could probably do training, like they were saying, like a lot more, like maybe more complex, or like run through more scenarios in this VR. And then you could also do live fire training and like simulation training, but you could maybe supplement it. And I'm sure they would test the outcomes of, substituting some of this training for other types of training, but I'm sure they would still use somewhat of a well-rounded approach. Stephanie said the airline industry is the first to adopt e-learning simulations, but AR/VR is taking that a step further. Yeah, there's some really awesome like flight programs in VR. I think there are some that run on the standalone Quest 2, and then there are some that you can run from a PC, like with you know, a modern graphics processor and you know, like a PC that's basically set up for medium to high end gaming, and you can run a very realistic. And then if you supplement that with a control interface, which would probably be design, you know, that would be an expensive thing, like a control interface that's similar to a cockpit, but with VR or augmented reality, you could really get a lot of valuable training, I think. Simulated climate change data using data provided by Climate Trace to provide digital environment to allow for a layered view of targeted atmospheric emissions. Yep, that sounds really interesting. Julia, when I was a truck driver, we used something similar to teach drivers when to brake properly. Yeah, that sounds really, really cool and like a really good application. Basically, and I'm going to get the next video queued up. We're just going to watch a part of this, which is actually itself a sampling of a couple other things, but this is from VR Essentials, November 19, 2021. I'm going to share screen. This is another example of this idea of haptic feedback in terms of your hands and also controlling and then also receiving feedback through physical sensation using a glove-like device. Can everybody see that? All right, I'm going to turn off the closed captioning because double closed captioning is very confusing and disorienting. So we'll just rely on the auto transcript from Zoom.
But yeah, I mean, it's, oh, here's a demo.
We took it even further by developing our own proprietary haptics technology that features active force feedback.
This is
With
amazing.
VR Glove, you can feel the size, shape, motion, and stiffness of any virtual object.
Really amazing stuff.
By physically stopping.
So what they're saying here is that not only is the glove controlling your virtual hand, but there are motors, if you see, there are motors and maybe wires or different ways to create resistance. So when you go to grab this drill as a virtual object, the fingers on the bottom where you're gripping the lower part will actually, it will provide resistance such that it feels like you're holding a solid object. And then where you go to use the trigger of the drill, you'll feel resistance, but you'll be able to pull it into a certain point like you would the drill itself. So for simulating, manipulating things like tools, and I think it's going to show a little bit more, but this provides a lot of more realistic interaction in these virtual worlds.
Stopping your fingers from moving and measuring how hard you're squeezing, VR Glove provides dynamic haptic sensations that actually feel real and are completely responsive based on the inputs you provide with your.
Feels real, man. Feels real. And then we have SenseGlove here, also one of the pioneers in this space. You can see the Pico Neo 2's headset on there. They might want to update the picture to a Pico Neo 3 Pro if you guys are watching. But yeah, they're doing really cool stuff. SenseGlove, I believe I put them here. So here's the technology. I mean, look at this as well. Now I'm gonna not put the music on because I really don't want any issues with copyright infringements. But yeah, I mean, look at this. He's wearing the Pico Neo 2 here. And again, I mean, it's getting lighter and lighter. It's getting smaller and smaller. I guess these things need battery maybe to, you know, to be used. I'm not quite sure. I have to do more research on it. But SenseGlove is another one of the pioneers in the industry. One of the most, you know, more well-known brands that's been around for quite a while. In developing stuff, and you know, if you go to the website as well, there'll be case studies there. I'll put a link in the description below to all the various different you know, guys we've been showcasing today for the, you know, haptic feedback for sure. And then lastly, now this leads me to this to be used. I'm not.
All right, I'm going to pause it. I just wanted to go and you saw a couple different examples here. Where was there's a very brief shot, but it somebody was assembling something basically, and then there was okay, I'm not going to be able to find it, but there was basically it was simulating somebody using tools. It looked like in auto manufacturing, like to install parts or components onto a car door. So like for industrial training applications, this would provide, you know, that more of that sense of realism and training that would be effective and beneficial, whereas the person's not having, you know, they might start with this, do like a certain class and situation, and then go on to, you know, an actual part, and then more on the job training. Yeah, right. So this, I will recommend, if you do get really inspired and you know, you want to see a kind of a fictional, somewhat dystopian way that this might go. It's based on a book called Ready Player One, but they made a movie a couple years ago, and it's kind of this imagination of where VR might go. But it's kind of a dystopian because it really magnifies the haves and the have-nots. Like the haves have like the best VR and full body haptic suits, and they also own more resources and things in this virtual world that everybody shares. But it is, you know, some of it I think is maybe a little bit more fantastical, but I think a lot of it is based on what could be possible in, say, 5, 10 or more years. And it's funny, the movie itself and the book take place in Columbus, Ohio, which is where I currently reside. But yeah, it's, hopefully we don't have quite that future, but I think that some of what they do in there, you know, might be possible, and I think we very well might see. But yeah, and there are vests, and actually I'm going to go on to, because we are running out of time, and I want to share this, and so those gloves too, that's something that's maybe a little less common, and a little bit more expensive, those types of haptic gloves, because it is all very new and cutting edge. And it's like the you know, with a lot of technologies, when you have like the very first cell phone, like the brick phone, it was out of reach for the average person. Same thing when VR really kind of first became popular, it was very cost prohibitive, and the quality was not that great compared to what we have now. And now, like, I can see the cost continuing to come down, the innovation going up, and then those innovative things, the cost on those continuing to go down, as well as demand picks up and manufacturing picks up. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. But this, so what Edwin was saying about the vest, they do have vests that you can wear that have different haptic feedback. Like some have speakers or vibration sensors, and they can create sensations and sense either on your torso, or they have some like for your arms. They have some that attach to your headset itself that can provide sense touch haptic feedback to your head. But this one is almost a full body suit, and I think the cost on this is like in the probably like $5,000 to $10,000, and it's very you know, it's very new, it's very limited availability, and something like this would probably be more for a professional or you know, like a high level application. But I will just...
is a human to digital interface, the only of its kind, designed to simulate experience and accelerate mastery in the physical world. Tesla Suit inputs haptic feedback to any area of the body, from gentle touch to feelings of physical exertion and temperature, and outputs motion capture and biometrics. Tesla Suit accelerates VR training with performance monitoring and sensation. Users experience scenarios as though they've lived them. In the physical world, errors in operating procedure can be costly. Trainers are a limited resource, and mastery requires endless input and repetition. With Tesla Suit, trainer inputs are embedded in the simulation. Users train with autonomy, and mastery is achieved with less repetition by programming operating procedure into muscle memory. In high-stakes industries, where errors can cost millions of dollars or human lives, Tesla Suit reduces risk by training safety protocol into reflex. Training requires less time and human resources, and users perform reliably like masters on day one. On heavy industrial sites, on-the-job injuries are reduced by perfecting technique. Public safety professionals develop the instincts they'll need in the heat of the moment. Tesla Suit captures the movement of individuals and teams, enabling experts to analyze performance, both in training and in the field. In any field, the Tesla Suit Developer Toolkit supports rapid development of accelerated training solutions, and mastery can now be scaled infinitely. Tesla Suit. Master reality.
So yeah, that's that is an example of a pretty high level and currently, yeah. How do you wash it? That is a good question, and I don't. My guess would be that similar to like a electric warming blanket, or I'm trying to think of other, but I'm guessing that the technology, some of it either can be washed with it, or any sensitive technology might be able to be removed from the suit. I believe it probably has like a like different types of wire mesh and stuff on the inside that conduct electrical signals. If I really recommend look up, there are a lot of videos. That was the only one that I could find that was Creative Commons license. There are a lot of videos of people trying the Tesla suit and doing different things, but it can actually simulate pain as well, which sounds like bad, and obviously you wouldn't want to overdo that, but because I think it can actually send, like how there's the exercise type equipment that can like stimulate your muscles, like like you put it on and it like flexes your muscles. I believe the Tesla suit can do that. Like it has points that it can actually interface with your muscles via electric signals. So it definitely has a lot of applications, but right now something like that is quite expensive, but it's because it's only a few years old, I would say. But maybe in 10 years, maybe something like that would be affordable for an individual person to have it in their home. If you can afford it, you don't care about washing. Febreze it to death. Yeah.
Well, I think Dr. Blizzard will appreciate this. We talked about the dark side of creativity in Honors 480. I mean, you could use that pain suit for lots of terrible things. Interrogations. I mean, if it gets in the wrong hand of crazy people, it could be a bad thing.
Yeah, or it would be quite unfortunate if in the future, if people have suits such as these, and if you could somehow get hacked and somebody could, mess with you physically, I guess. And that's why, cybersecurity is such a important field and thing that we, keep up with, so that we can minimize those types of occurrences. But yeah, we're down to our last 10 minutes. That was, I'm just gonna, sorry, once again, because I want to make sure I get this out there in this recording. Oops. I'm just going to share the references, but I'm just going to open it up for feedback and discussion for the rest of this time that we have together. There.
And before we do that, I want to make sure I post the link, and we'll do it again later. Those of you that are in, oops, that's not the link I want to post. Just bear with me a minute while I get the correct link up. But I'm going to just a minute post the link for the PLA form for those of you that are in the honors program and are planning on obtaining credit towards your 15 hours that are required for PLA credit. And in just a couple minutes, I will have that link. I thought it was on my copied, and I have the wrong one. So I'm going to go fetch that and bring it back. But anyway, that link I will provide so that you can fill out the form. Here it is, and receive credit towards the 15 hours. So I'll put that in the chat now.
Dr. Blizzard, is that still available inside the course itself as well, in the announcements or in?
Yeah, it's still available absolutely in the Honors the Honors Learning community. That link is up, and the page of events is there. And just for all of you that are currently in the honors program and concerned about these 15 hours, Marc, actually, I was about to say Marc and I, but predominantly Marc, has created a fabulous Q&A, a 2-page Q&A document with a lot of helpful information about meeting the PLA requirement. And that's just in sort of a final editorial review right now. And within a few days, we're going to be making that available both in the honors learning community. We'll be sending that out to all current honors program students. So be looking for that in the next few days as well. That will provide some additional guidance. We recognize now we needed to have done that. Sorry, we're learning by hindsight, but that will be out shortly.
So I wanted to post, this is the references list. This is everything that we viewed today. Everything is Creative Commons except actually the last thing, which we didn't get to, but I just linked that video. It's a really cool project. And actually one of the other faculty members who's on the VR and education group that we have here at UAGC pointed this out. And I guess they were involved with the creation of this. They were like an advisor on that. So that was really cool. And that's how I found out about that Nanomi. But it's about manipulating and understanding chemical structures in a 3D VR environment, which is a really important thing, especially when it comes to proteins in living, like proteins in our bodies, because proteins are like these, it all depends on how the protein is like folded and structured. That's actually one of the big things with developing vaccines, including for COVID-19, was figuring out the exact structure and how the COVID-19 proteins are folded and formed. And I guess being in a 3-dimensional environment where you can manipulate these models can be helpful in understanding and figuring that out. So I recommend checking that out. These are all the sources. Thanks for sharing that, Clifford. Also, this will go and hopefully not get any YouTube copyright hits onto the UAGC YouTube channel, which I will try to link right now. But yeah, does anybody else have any other final thoughts? I would encourage you, if you have not had the chance, check out in your area if there is something where you can rent or try it out, or if your company, a lot of companies are starting to bring it in terms of training purposes. So that's something that if you're interested, and if your company doesn't have it and you think that there could be a good application, you could make the case for it, and maybe that's something that you could help to facilitate your company bringing something like that in. So yep, Clifford posted also information about the upcoming event, which is next week, and on innovation and creativity, a roundtable. My goal for that, although I will have some ideas, and Clifford, I don't know if you're going to be able to be there, but any other faculty will hopefully bring some ideas of things to share. But my goal is to have it to be a show and tell. So bring something like a short video, less than 5 minutes, or some sort of information about something, a technology or innovation that you're really excited about, either in your own life, your career, your discipline. So
to answer, does the upcoming presentation absolutely. Anything offered through honors counts toward the 15 hours. If you're in champs, if you're coming to, Marc and I have a TED Talks club, and we can't go into that right now, but that's also posted in the honors learning community. Those all count. When in doubt, it counts. Please don't, if you only are able to watch a video recording, that counts. And we're going to be continuing to roll out other ways to get that 15 hours. So please, if you're feeling uptight, like, how am I going to get the 15 hours? Don't be. There will be plenty of ways already with the available videos. If you attend a couple of these, you're done. But if you're in champs, if you're in another club with an academic component, you're going to meetings regularly, you're going to have those 15 hours before you know it. It really isn't going to take a lot of time.
How does this tonight get counted?
You're going to complete the form that I provided in the chat, and I will post the link again. The form will take you about 10 minutes to fill out. Basically it's just documenting what this is and writing a little bit. You're asked to kind of jot a few thoughts about what you experienced. Just kind of reflect on it. And then that it's a Qualtrics form. You just complete the form and it goes into our system, and then that counts And we're also going to have rolling out very soon in the next few days, a spreadsheet, a template that you can use to keep track of your hours toward the 15 as you go. We don't have that piece quite in place yet, but very soon. That's also under review. So
okay, yeah, if you could post it again, because I don't have it in the chat.
Yeah,
it's not going to be
absolutely.
available
I'm
after
looking
this
for it
call.
now. No worries. Or I can go back and fetch it again. I copied this upcoming event, and there it is. Mark has that's the credit tracking. Let me go ahead and get that link again from the learning community. Just a moment.
Yeah, so that is all that is an Excel spreadsheet with just headings on it, and that's for you yourself to keep track of it so that you know where you're at, where you stand, and what things you've attended. So it's a two-part system. The Excel spreadsheet is for your own records, and when you fill out the Qualtrics survey, that's for our honors records so that we can just verify everything. So when you do an event, but it's self-reporting, when you attend an event, you can track it yourself on this example spreadsheet and then track it using Qualtrics. And then that way, when you get your 15 hours, you can say, hey, I got my 15 hours, and we'll check, and you'll check, and we'll all have records. And if something's wrong, we'll reconcile them at that point, and then you'll have the requirement. And then we'll give all that information to the people at UAGC who handle the PLA credit process, and we'll get you your one elective credit, no cost to you. Yep.
And I will also add that later this year, we're going to be adding in opportunities for those that have taken 270 and 280, for instance, to come back to come into the honors learning community space and share in a couple hundred words how their work has gone since then. If they've continued if you've continued in service learning projects from what you did in those courses, you'll be able to share that. And then the time you take to write that post will be called roughly an hour. And then you'll be able to submit a form for that hour without going to anything, just showing up and sharing your experience. So we're going to be rolling that out later this year. We're going to continue to roll out. And if you have an idea for another thing that you think ought to be counted toward those 15 hours, let us know about it. We're continually looking for new ways to do that. But certainly a lot of the academic clubs, and if there's some sort of symposium or conference through UAGC, let us know about it. Hey, I'm attending this. I'm going to 4 talks. There you go, 4 hours or whatever it is. Or, there's this really cool talk in my community I'm going to about this. It's related to my work. Great. It's an hour. Submit a Qualtrics form. Let us know. We'll prove it. Submit a Qualtrics form, and you got that. So maybe you're already doing things in your that tie in as well. So we really want to be super flexible with this kind of opportunity.
Adriana, what if I've not yet been accepted to the honors program? That's a good question, whether attending events before you're accepted can count.
No, you're going to have to be accepted first. I don't see how would work in Qualtrics. We won't be able to track you. That would open a proverbial can of worms. So unfortunately, it will need to be after. But okay, here's what you can do. We're even on record with this, but it's okay. What you can do is you can go ahead and apply. Once you get in, you're going to notice that there's a page on the honors learning community. Once you're accepted, you're going to have access to the honors learning community in Canvas. Soon thereafter, I'm the one that adds new students to that space. You can go in, and there's a link for videos, right, Mark, of past events. You can go to the video of this past event. You don't even need to watch it because you were already there. You can write it up as if it was a video that you watched. Maybe just note, and in fact, I was there. Great. And then you can submit it. So you can do it that way. That's kind of a little loophole that would enable you to do that. Then you don't have to watch the video again if you're already here. As long as you remember, you might want to watch the video to trigger some memory because you are asked to write about it. But you can always jot down some things today in a little Word document, and then you'll have that ready to go once you're in honors. So there is a way.
That is the important thing too about your own tracking, and also when you fill out the call is make sure you meet that requirement of doing the write-up and relate the information, what you learned, how it relates to there's 4 honors pillars. Most everything that we do should be tied to that, but any other events, like make sure because that is important to mapping these outside of the classroom activities to like measurable learning outcomes that align with the honors program. So that it's important. Don't just say I went to this event and then just say like, oh, I learned a lot. Like I learned a lot about AR and VR. Like talk about how this stuff relates to innovation, leadership, global issues, you know, like
and civic responsibility, and just about anything you come up with academic, you can find a way to tie into one of those four or more. It isn't well, this was almost rocket science in a way, but it isn't rocket science in terms of being able to complete the form. But it is really important because we are tracking that, and it is that part of the academic experience for you folks in honors. And
Right.
It's kind of the model of moving from the idea of honors as a bunch of little compartments where you take a course and then take another course, then take a third course, to a community where you're taking classes, you're joining us here, you're in the honors learning community, reading other people. So it's more of trying to create an environment of community. We're all honors scholars learning together in that community. It's really exciting to me. So thank you. We're all over time. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Mark, for a fantastic presentation. If there are any other questions, we will be happy to remain and answer them, particularly if they're honors related or VR related. And we hope to see you at upcoming events. We're so grateful that you came tonight, and we hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.